There's a new movie out called The Great and Powerful Oz. And in the movie, the magician that finds himself in Oz, he's made out to be a wizard, and he's made out to save that kingdom. But he's honest with himself and says, I'm not who you think I am. I am an average magician. But there's one person in the kingdom who believes that he is the wizard that is to save them. And it's her belief in him that makes him start to believe the same. And at the end of the movie, he does save the kingdom. If I gave it away, that's your problem. In our discourses, we assign movies as assignments. That's the great part of being a CHYK. In The Dark Knight Rises, Bruce Wayne, Batman, tries to come out of this pit 3 times. The first 2 times, he has a rope tied around his waist. He has to make a long jump. And both times, he naturally falls. He doesn't believe. That's why the rope is around his waist. The 3rd time, he takes off without the rope. The 3rd time is when he comes out of that pit. This magician, this superhero, they're not different than you and I. This body is hardware, and everyone just has a different shade and density of hardware, and that's it. And just like in a computer, what separates a computer is not the hardware, but the software. That is the mind. The magician, Bruce Wayne, their software was programmed in such a way that belief strengthened who they are. The disease, the virus in our software is fear. And this fear, like a virus in a computer, causes failure. I type something, something else comes up. I send something, something else goes. I press on, it presses off. Causes failure. And whenever we have a disease of the mind, for some reason we're infatuated with physical solutions. I'm angry, I should go for a walk. I'm angry, I should count to 10. I should wash my hands. What does that have to do with the subtle disease, the soft disease? I need a soft solution. I need a soft medicine. And when we receive this medicine, we have to make this absorbable. Often medicine comes, but it doesn't suit us well, so the medicine does nothing for us. What Vibhishana is facing right now is the same fear that you and I have. And Bhagavan Rama is trying to take that fear away from him, not by touching him, not by giving him vibhuti or a watch. The diseases of the mind, so he's trying to reprogram his mind. You and I are not Vibhishana. If we were Vibhishana, life would be magical. What a great being Vibhishana is, Ravana's brother. And that's why I'm focusing the last 3 discourses and this one too on making this absorbable. What can I put into this software to make this stronger? We shall briefly review what we've studied. I'm going to go through each Sanskrit virtue. You will all yell out the English virtue. Clear? That way everyone gets a very brief synopsis of what we're studying. Bhagavan Rama begins describing the Dharma Ratha, the chariot that we need to build to face fear. The wheels on the chariot. Wheel number 1, Sauraja. Wheel number 2, Dhiraja. We shift to the flags. First flag, Satya. Honesty. Second flag, Shila. Character. We shift to the horses. First horse, Bala. Second horse, Viveka. Third, Dhamma. Fourth, parahita. Consideration, naturally for others. Consideration for myself. This is what we're learning. We're already experts at that. We don't need to study. And for each of these virtues, we were given an associated practice, which I'm just trying to fly through for the amount of time. For courage, we said to keep a coin in our pocket. And whenever we're feeling discouraged, to flip that coin till the opposite side comes up to teach us a different perspective. It could be black, it could be white. I could be looking at the glass half empty. I should look at it half full. Courage. For persistence, it was at least once a week we should revolve around those people who are persistent. In other words, satsang. When I spend time with people who give up, I give up. When I'm around people who don't give up, I don't give up either then. For honesty, we made the alarm clock pramana, authority. When the alarm clock goes off, we have to arise and then awake. But we're dishonest. I set the alarm clock but keep pressing snooze. That dishonesty just keeps growing then. So how to start with honesty? Alarm clock goes off, we should get up. Shila, conduct. Whenever we have family parties, that we should spend some time with our elders, our grandparents. Get to know them, get to know the challenges they faced and how their character helped them face those challenges. For bala, health, 3 meals a day. Separate, not 3 meals in one meal. 3 meals spread out. So that balance comes into one's life. For viveka, for discrimination, every time we criticize someone, we have to compliment them as well. This will balance this judgment that we tend to have towards others. So if I say, you don't smell very good, but then I should say you're smart. And the point of that is that I'll stop saying you smell bad, as an example. Dhamma, or discipline, instead of multitasking, to unitask. Just study, just eat, just drive, just walk, just listen to music if I'm listening to music. For parahita, consideration, to begin giving percentages of our time away to others. We have 168 hours a week. If I give away 1% to volunteering, 2 hours a week. What if I double that? 4 hours a week. That's how parahita is developed. We shift to the reins, kshama, forgiveness. The way to practice forgiveness, we should learn to tease each other in a graceful way. People who take themselves too seriously, take life too seriously, they never forgive and never seek forgiveness. But if we learn to tease each other in a gentle way, forgiveness comes more fluidly then. Kripa, compassion. The way to practice this, when someone is speaking, we should keep our mouth closed. Because often we listen to reply instead of listening to understand. So even body language, we can just say, instead of saying, yeah, or what did you say over there? If we just keep our mouth closed, we will learn to be more compassionate. We will listen. Then, samata, evenness. The world is uneven, so we need to be even. The practice here, in the front page of every booklet that our CHYKs have, is a powerful message, which you should cut out and paste where you need it most, photocopy it and give it to the people behind you because they need it just as bad. So, evenness. Then we studied the charioteer to our dharmaratha, and that is bhaja, devotion, and specifically devotion to Bhagwan. And the way to develop devotion for Bhagwan, 3 secrets. 3 secrets that we can walk away with. The first secret, Bhagwan is not looking for our ability. He or she is looking for our availability. Number 2, Bhagavan never gives us a problem without giving us the power to face that problem. All we have to do is find that power inside, not outside. Number 3, Bhagavan always gives us a little bit less than what we want. And the reason is because we keep looking to him then. Whenever we have everything we want, we go to sleep. But he gives us a little bit less, so we keep working, keep striving, keep moving, keep praying, keep looking. This is how we will worship Bhagavan. Then we got to our weapons. And we began with our shastras, weapons in hand. And the first one was vairagya, independence. And the way to practice this virtue is learning to be alone. Some of the exercises given was go to a fancy dinner, and when they ask table for 2, say table for 1. And sit down and eat that meal by yourself and watch how dependent we are. Because then we'll learn to be independent. Go to a movie by oneself, study by oneself, be alone. Puja Swami Chinmayananda said, if you don't enjoy your own company, why do you impose it on others? So we have to practice being alone, independence. Next weapon was santosh, contentment. And we said we should all have a gratitude guide, where every morning we write down a reason to be grateful. And I told you I'd show you mine. This is my gratitude guide, simple book that my sister gave to me for free. And today I wrote, today's March 17th, learning from experience. I'm grateful that I have an opportunity to learn from experience. That's a reason to smile, to be content. And the last weapon we studied was dana, or charity. And what everyone was encouraged to do is teach balavihar. Vidya danam, mahadanam. The greatest charity we can give is knowledge. And you and I have that opportunity. See how all of these medicines can be absorbed? We just have to choose to do so. We continue with our weapons, but we shift from shastras to astras. Shastras I hold in hand, astras I release from my hand. And the first one is a missile, and that is called Shakti. That is virtue number 16, Shakti, which means understanding. It is not Shakti in my muscles, it is Shakti in my buddhi, understanding. What does this mean at a spiritual level? Puja Swami Chinmayananda has explained what a vasana is. When we cut onions in the morning, even if we wash our hands many times during the day, when one smells their hands, what do they smell like? Onions. When I desire, think, act, it leaves a fragrance on my personality. What does Buddhi Shakti do? It helps me to understand that I'm always pure. Those vasanas belong to the ego, not to me. That beneath this skin, my flesh is pure. But I need that understanding that I am more than the V or the B or the M or the I. That's power. If we say knowledge is power, self or absolute knowledge should be absolute power then. Buddhi Shakti. What does this mean at a CHYK level? And I'm never saying spiritual level, CHYK level. I'm not saying that. I'm saying spiritual level and CHYK level. It's just a different perspective. Each and every one of us has questions. Who am I? What will happen to me when I die? Am I happy? Most profound question we will ever ask ourselves is, am I happy? And I love saying this in context where people don't understand. So they say, why is it important if you're happy? They're saying, am I happy, referring to me. Ask that question to yourself. Don't ask it to me. Am I happy? And we ask the question, and then we get involved in cooking, cleaning, walking, working, sleeping, fighting, etc. And that question is never answered. We don't pursue the questions, which is why we don't extract answers. Then we live lives like robots, like Vedantic robots. They're all thinking, what in the world is he? Are you sure they speak the same language? Our chicks did a skit on Vedantic robots, how robots are trying to seek enlightenment, but they just can't. They don't have the capacity, that buddhi shakti, to go deeper into the question. And the way that Pujya Swami Shantananda shares this, back in the day in India, families lived together, many generations, in large homes. And they all had a courtyard with a tulsi plant that is in the middle. Everyone seen such a home? CIF is like that. And the eldest male facilitated the puja. So the grandfather would collect all the materials, family members would sit around. It's big space, so animals would go through, dogs, cats, birds. So the grandfather tells the eldest son, that cat that wanders around, make sure you catch it and tie it so it doesn't disturb the puja. So that became his responsibility. As time progressed, a generation passed away, they shifted to the city, smaller homes. Now that eldest male is not the grandfather, but the son now, he's facilitating the puja. And it's his first time, he has all of the materials gathered. And he calls his son and says, go get a cat and tie it before we begin our puja. Rituals, robots, they're synonymous with each other. When I don't pursue an answer, this is how we live. One of the questions raised for everyone is, what are the three fundamental fears that every human being, other than those who are enlightened, have? And I'll share with those to you. One of them is fear of the unknown. And the question is important, the answer is more important. Why do we fear the unknown? Because it's anti our nature, which is chit. Our nature is awareness, so anything that makes me unaware causes me fear. That's the depth of going into fear, because it teaches us who we actually are. When we find meaning in what we do, that becomes more meaningful. Find meaning. All of the greatest people in the world, in history, found meaning in what they did. Even the people who changed the world or the people who changed a family. In their own homes, they found the meaning of being a husband, a wife, a son, a daughter. And it became a meaningful experience for them. Many people, when asked, what do you do? I'm a homemaker. And they mumble it. You're a homemaker. How's that different than being a physician or being an engineer? It's just a different direction. You're still making, but we have to find meaning. If we don't find meaning, we will never say that with confidence. How to find meaning? Here is how to practice this. Every evening, gratitude journals in the morning, every night before we go to sleep, write one paragraph on what's on your mind. Questions, answers, revelations, a spiritual journal. It will help us find more meaning in our day-to-day affairs. Every evening. Last thought is my spiritual journal. So 2 books that need to be bought beginning tomorrow morning. Gratitude Guide, Spiritual Journal. That is the missile. The next weapon is Bhagwan Rama's bow, his kodanda. And this is number 17, called Vijnana, or wisdom. Vijnana, or wisdom. The amazing aspect of Sanatana Dharma is how deep Sanatana Dharma is. Many religions only study the waking state and the dream state. In Sanatana Dharma, we study 3 states: waking, dream, and sleep. Many religions say money is the cause of all evil. Many say desire is the cause of all evil. Both are incomplete. The cause of all evil, the original sin, is ignorance. It's because I'm ignorant that I have desire. It's because I'm ignorant that I believe money will bring me joy. That's the depth of Sanatana Dharma. And if ignorance is the disease, there is only one medicine. What is anti-ignorance? Wisdom, not knowledge. We all have a lot of knowledge, but are we applying that knowledge? Wisdom. I have a disease and the medicine's in the bottle beside me. I'm going to get cured. I have to internalize that medicine. Ramakrishna Paramahansa shares this humorously. He says, everyone hears that if you go to the Ganga, all of one's sins will be washed away. So many of us go on yatras. Let's go to the Ganga. And we go there with a lot of burden of sin on us. And we're going to be lightened. But before our first toe hits the water, the ego jumps off to the nearest tree. And we go into the Ganga and we bathe, and all of those sins are washed away. He's right. And then as soon as our first toe hits the land, the ego jumps back on us. And it's more dangerous because then I feel good. I can commit more sins now. See, the sins are washed, but not the sinner. Ego. This is the need for wisdom as one's bow. At a CHYK level, we've learned so much, both in our universities and in Balavihar. We are continuing to learn so much in all we do. In all of this learning, is our purpose being served? In other words, are we happy? Are we happier people? Reflecting on this, I went to school for 20 years, not including studying in the ashram. Catholic school, public school, school in Europe as well. Not once did I have a teacher who asked me, Vivek, are you happy? Not once did I have a teacher who taught me what the purpose of life is. And then I went to the ashram for 2 years, and that's all they asked me. Are you happy? And do you know your purpose of life? That's where the purpose of knowledge, which is wisdom, is served. And this leads us to another fundamental fear we have. Fear of sorrow. Now think, why do we fear sorrow? Because it's anti-ananda. My nature is joy, so naturally I fear sorrow. How do we know we fear sorrow? How do I know that's not my nature? Why do we try to escape sorrow? Does one ever wake up and say, today's going to be a terrible day, I can't wait? And has anyone ever been too happy? I'm too happy, you take some. It's giving me a headache. Our nature is infinite, constant, unconditional ananda. And we fear sorrow because it's anti-who I am. The evolution of knowledge is wisdom. We come into this building not to be philosophers. We come here to be practitioners. We don't come here to teach anyone philosophy other than ourselves. Knowing that, how to practice vijnana, wisdom. Number 1, study chapter 7 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Number 2, in our academic institutions, what are the 3 R's? Reading, writing, and arithmetic. Even though if you told someone today, what arithmetic? What are you talking about? Math. Reading, writing, and math. In our spiritual institutions, it is reading, writing, and reflection. before we leave for work, before we leave for school, before we leave for whatever, read for 5 minutes, write down what was understood for 5 minutes, then close one's eyes and reflect on it for 5 minutes. And knowledge will turn into wisdom. I will go through Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam in 15 minutes. Imagine that. Reading, writing, and reflection. 15 minutes a day. Now we have a bow, but we also need a quiver. That is the next weapon. Number 18, and it is amala, which means purity. And it doesn't mean purity of, hand sanitizer. Purity of mind. That manaha has to be amala. The Hanuman Chalisa class left today, correct? They wanted to know why they're called Hanuman Chalisa. We all chant, don't we? Shri Guru Charana Saroja Raja Nijamana Mukura Sudhari. That I take the dust of my Guru and I make my mind clean. I make it pure so that I'm about to describe Hanumanji. And to truly give justice to Hanumanji, I have to make sure that he's the embodiment of purity. I have to make sure my mind is pure too, so I understand. It's like meeting the most great person. I have to prepare myself for that. Otherwise, I'll take them for granted. When we have a pure mind, it's as if we have no mind. Swami Sharananda had once shared, a healthy body is no body. An unhealthy body, I know that it's there. I heard another speaker say, you don't know you have knees till you're 40. So in the same way, if I have a pure mind, I have no mind then. Meaning it doesn't trouble me. Where does fear live? In the mind. If I have a pure mind, fear has nowhere to live then. At a CHYK level, we've all been raised to be pure in thought, word, and deed. Our parents taught us, don't listen to heavy metal music. Our parents taught us not to use bad words. Our parents taught us to wash our hands before we eat. Thoughts, words, and deeds. But when we leave home, when we leave Avantika, we're exposed to beings who have not been taught the same. It may be their fault, it may not be their fault. That's not the point. But when exposed to the idea of not being pure in thought, word, and deed, we often give in. It's not important to not use bad words. It doesn't matter, even if only I hear it. It's not why wash my hands? Why take a shower today? It's Sunday. I have to take a shower tomorrow. I'm saving water. We give in then. And when we give in, what we forget, one of your reflection assignments was, think about the most fearless people you know. The 3 people in your life, intimately, that you know that are fearless, and I don't know who they are, but I'm sure they were pure in thought, pure in word, and pure in deed. This is why one wears an upanayana, a janeyu, a yagnopavita. See, in animals called the tiryak, they're horizontal. Their genital organ, stomach, heart, and head is all the same priority. A human, it's the exact opposite. Genital organ, stomach, heart, head. That's what our focus should be. On the heart and head, not on, when I wear a string, then it's not on enjoyment and eating. It's on my heart and head. And those who are fearless live like that. Those who only seek enjoyment in eating, that fear doesn't allow them to enjoy and eat. Puja Swami Tejramananda says, we live to eat, drink, and be merry. But if I'm not merry, whatever I'm eating doesn't taste good. If I'm agitated and I have mango lassi with extra sugar, but if I'm agitated, that drink's not very good. But if I'm married, any food is good. Any drink is good. That's the need for purity, amala. If we do a cost-benefit analysis of having a pure mind and not having a pure mind, shuddhata, ekagrata, sukshmata. In English, shuddhata, the mind is peaceful. Ekagrata, the mind is potent. And sukshmata, the mind is powerful. That mind that is potent can make a difference. That mind that is powerful can make a difference. And that mind that is peaceful has already made a difference. Isn't that worth it? How to practice being amala? Whenever we see someone's face, we should visualize that they can read our minds. As soon as we see someone's face or make eye contact, we should visualize that they can read our minds. Then we'll change what we're thinking very quickly. Desire, greed, jealousy, lust, all of that. I don't want you to know about this. A gentleman once asked me, very innocently, can you bring people back to life? And I said no, and I began explaining to him what medical death is, what biological death is, what philosophical death is. Then he says, can you read people's minds? And I looked him in the eye and said, yes. And I did it, number one, just to freak him out and so I can have a good laugh. Then I apologized. Graceful teasing. See, that's graceful teasing. But all of our minds are the same. And so the more I get to know my mind, the more I get to know your mind. It is not an esoteric, abstract ability. And this is why for those who are planning to get married, those who are soon to get married, go to the Vedanta course before you go. You will get to know your mind, you will get to know your spouse's mind, things will be wonderful. But the Indian mentality, and I've shared this many times, we are all mathematicians. So we've learned 2 negatives make a positive. I'm unhappy. This girl is unhappy. When we're happy, when we're together, we're going to be happy, right? Or I'm confused, she's confused, then we will have clarity. We have to purify this mind. So visualize that someone can read one's mind. And my mother-in-law is a forensic psychiatrist. So when we have dinner together, we try to have dinner together once a week. We sit at a table, and I know she's trying to read my mind, and I'm trying to read her mind. So we just sit there like this and don't communicate. But it's because she knows people's minds. And she thinks I have problems. That's all. We should learn to purify the mind. Every mother-in-law thinks the son-in-law has problems. That's the way it works. Don't say you just have problems. One of the qualities was honesty, okay? I was giving talks on mindful living, and so part of that is being mindful living with home, meaning one's family. So again, my mother-in-law gave me a book on marriage therapy. And I know she had 2 agendas. Number 1, I'm married to her daughter. Number 2 is that this will help the thoughts that were shared. But see, she always has her hidden agenda too. Amala. The next that the mind needs to be, and this is another part of the quiver. Okay? Amala, the next is achala. Achala means steadiness. The mind needs to be steady. For the typical student today, when we study, we also are texting, our email is open, We can't study without music, apparently. Meal is probably being served at the same time. A little bit of sleep is going on. All of this. And now they're all laughing. Yeah, you're all like that. Now for all of you. When we are driving, the same things are happening. A little bit of sleep, texting is going on. The first thing we do when we drive is turn the radio on, isn't it? We are people with unsteady minds. And if we think only 50 years ago or 75 years ago, which is not too far ago, when Mahatma Gandhi used to study, he used to light a candle and sit near that candle and study till that candle burned out. There's nothing else he would do but study. And he went in as an attorney and ended up pulling the British Empire down. But see that steadiness of mind when the country is burning, when his family is saying this. Steady. No fear in such a mind. The nature of the mind is samshaya. It's called samshaya atmika. The nature of the mind is doubt. And whenever there's doubt, what we need to do is anchor that doubt. Because if we don't, Bhagavan Krishna has taught in chapter 4, that person who doubts is not successful in this world, let alone the next world. What does doubt mean? That person who has an unsteady mind is not successful in this world, let alone the next world. The practicality of what Bhagavan Rama is teaching. Now the question is, and the answer often shared is, but this is how my mind is. This is how I study. This is my cognitive behavior therapy, that I need music and I need to shave while I drive or whatever one is doing. But you and I know how to have a steady mind. Whenever we're watching a good movie, is there hunger? Is there thirst? Is there tiredness? When Devo Ke Dev Mahadev is on, and we're watching that on YouTube, is there family? We are immersed in that media. The mind is totally there. Other people come and talk to us. What, I don't even hear that. So we know how to do it. And so what our own life experiences teach us, you and I don't lack intelligence. We should never say, God never gave me that power. God did give me that power. I have to find it. What we lack is interest. If we're interested in a specific field, we will have a steady mind. As an example, they say that the part of the week where there's a maximum heart attacks, NPR is one of my gurus. I have to drive a lot, so NPR teaches me a lot. And Monday mornings, NPR's National Public Radio, if those who don't. Is it thinking NPR? Is the new NPRG? Is that? Puja Swami Chinmayana, Puja NPR? Anyways, okay. An unsteady mind. The point of the week where there's maximum heart attacks, Monday morning. For the typical male, the low point of the week, Monday morning. And fascinatingly, for the women, it's different. It is Friday evening. Because now traditionally people are working all week and then looking after or trying to fix what's happening at home. Now the point here is that tomorrow morning when the alarm clock goes off because you have to go back to school and work or do whatever is happening at home, 6 a.m., by the time we wake up, it's 6:30. Now what if I re-reference this and said tomorrow morning you have to get up at 6 a.m. because we have to be at the Detroit airport for the 8 o'clock flight that's taking us to Barbados. What are you doing at 6 o'clock? Already at the airport. What sleep? Same 6 o'clock, but with a different reference point, different interest point. Everything changes. This is why Puja Swami Tejumayananda says, work doesn't tire us. It's our lack of love of work that tires us. We don't love what we do. To anchor the doubtful, and I'll answer another question I left with all of you. What comes first, sacrifice or dedication? Dedication comes first. When I'm dedicated to a purpose, a cause, an altar, I naturally sacrifice. When I'm dedicated to that cruise, me waking up at 6 a.m. is not a sacrifice. But if I'm going to work, I tell my boss, you know how much I sacrifice for you? Because I'm not dedicated to him or her. One of our CHYKs is an engineer, and part of their testing was they had to take cars onto ice and drive around. And all of the cars were sliding around. So then their trainer said, when you drive now in the next round, focus on that which is not moving. A tree or a house or a hill, whatever it is. And every one of those cars straightened out. That's anchoring the eyes. In this case, we need to anchor the mind. And the greatest anchor for our mind is Bhagwan's name. Janmapati iti japa. That which will protect me is japa. We need to constantly be taking the Lord's name. If you've seen videos of him, and she's in the video too, you see his hand is always moving with a mala. Always. For us too, whenever that fear comes in, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. That fear thought has no place to stay. The fear thought gets pushed out, fear gets pushed out then. And I've lots to say about japa another time. When we meet in the summer, I'll tell you about Namayana. Within Ramayana, there's a section called Namayana. How the name is the master and the form is the servant. That's the power of the Lord's name. Lord Rama has liberated thousands. Lord Rama's name has liberated millions. Let that be our anchor. Is that japa? So we have our missile, we have our bow, we have our quiver. Now we need our arrows. What are these arrows? First arrow is called Shama. We've studied Kshama. This is Shama without a K, which means calmness. And specifically, calmness of mind. In Prashnopanishad, students come to the Guru, and they come to the Guru with questions. But when does the Guru answer that question? 1 year after they've served in the ashram. 1 full year. And one is thinking, what a shady Guru. He's getting work out of them and then is going to answer their question. That's how we think. She is actually calming that mind down so that when the answer comes, it will be absorbed. I have to till my mind like soil for that seed to actually go into the fertile land. Because if the soil is not tilled, I put the seed there, but it just blows away. In Vivek Chudamani, the Shishya asks the Guru if he can ask a question. Not just, okay, this is what's on my mind, answer. Now, in Peaceful Warrior, solid movie, everyone should watch. It's called Peaceful Warrior. The book is called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. The Guru makes the Shishya serve in the gas station as part of his training. And one day he's just so frustrated, doesn't understand. That's the day he fails big time. The Guru is preparing one. The Karate Kid, old one, paint the friends. New one, take your coat on, put your coat off. All of this is Shama, calming the mind. When the mind is calm, we are closer to our nature. Thoughts of the self rise. When the mind is not calm, we think about society. At a CHYK level, we are all attracted to people who are calm because it's something we want. We find such people attractive. I'm not talking physically. Even physically, calm people are more attractive. Hanumanji, a monkey, but always calm, he's awesome. Ganeshji, an elephant. Lord Krishna is the blackest of the black. His skin is so dark you can't see it. But everyone loves Lord Krishna. That Shama, see how the body becomes more beautiful when the mind is calm. And funnily, hilariously, we practice the opposite. Oh, I have an exam. Oh, just leave me alone. We can't talk. That's what happens. Or, I'm getting married. Don't talk to me. I'm telling my spouse, future spouse, don't talk to me. We have to get married. Work is the same way. Relationships. Just this lack of calmness. And the question we should ask ourselves, is this lack of calmness working? Do we study better? Do we perform better at work? Do people like us more? On an airplane, it says, if you read the booklet, if the plane is crashing, if things are burning, it doesn't say jump out of the window and start yelling, push everyone out of the way. Be calm, exit the plane. Calmness. In the movie Tal, everyone seen the movie Tal? So there's one scene where Akshay Khanna is arguing with, I don't know, his brother-in-law, sister-in-law, whatever's happening. So they break a glass and look at him like this, Indian movie styles. So he takes 6 glasses and breaks them and says, if breaking glasses makes one right, then I'm right. Isn't that what we do with yelling? The more I yell, the more I'm right. And the more I'm agitated, the more that it's going to work. But is it working? In our Smriti, it's shared that for a brahmachari, a student, their dharma is seva. We've covered that already. For a grahastha, their dharma is danam. We've covered that already too. For a vanaprastha, someone who's retired, their dharma is niyama, discipline. We're going to cover that. And specifically for the vanaprastha, non-interference, non-indulgence. That is what it means to live in the forest. That if my 40-year-old son or daughter is not wearing a coat, I shouldn't call, did you wear your coat today? Non-interference. And for a sannyasi, their dharma is shama. That calmness. The way to bring this calmness into us, and I'm highlighting that all of this leads to shama. Seva, dana, niyama will lead to shama. And the practice of this you're not going to like, but I'm going to say it anyways. Sell your television. That is the way to bring calmness. Sell your television. I don't know if you're laughing with me or laughing at me at this point. And these practices I'm sharing with you, these sadhanas, this is not in Vibhishana Gita. Lord Rama didn't say, Vibhishana, sell your television. That's your problem. He's not saying this. I'm sharing this from insight and experience. My wife and I were going to buy a television. And we found a TV we wanted, and we went to the store, and we had enough money to buy it, but they had changed the price, so we couldn't afford to buy it. So we said, we'll wait. We still haven't gone back to buy a TV. And it's helped us a lot to learn each other and to continue learning, meaning reading at night. Television just enamors us, seduces us is a better word. Seduces us away from calmness. Now, if that's too hard, selling one's television, go for a walk every day. For 15 minutes, without people, without headphones, without a phone, just go for a walk and reconnect to everything. Phones are supposed to keep us connected. I feel that they keep us less connected. Email, a lot of the technology is actually disconnecting us from reality, like the Matrix. Sell your television and go for a walk. That's the best practice. Every time I want to watch a TV show, I'm going to watch the television that God created, that is outside of me. Now a lot of people have, okay, when is this over? Okay, I have to move fast now, so be ready. Next arrow, yama. Yama or guidelines. Yama means control. Yama means discipline. That's why he's known as Yamaraj. The Lord of Death is known as Yama. What that message is for you and I, no one dies a moment too soon or a moment too late. Everyone dies when they're supposed to die. Which leads us to one of our fundamental fears is death. Why do you and I fear death? Because it's anti-Sat. My nature is existence. Death is the opposite of that, so I fear that. Sat, Chit, Ananda, death, the unaware, sorrow. All around us there are guidelines. When we go to work, we have to punch in. When we drive, there are guardrails. Even on paper, there are lines. There's these guidelines everywhere because it keeps us in check. And the less mature we are, the more we need guidelines. Like Puja Swami Tejamananda says, where there is love, there's no need for rules. Where there's a lack of love, you need more rules then. You and I are fortunate that we have parents, that we have teachers, that we have volunteers, like in this building, that are keeping us in check, that are giving us guidelines. But still, we have this irresistible inclination to fight against these guidelines. Sometimes I go to people's homes and their parents tell me what I should tell their kids. And I do it and I tell the kids, I said, I'm telling you what your parents want me to tell you, but I know you'll listen to me because I'm not your parent. That's how simple it is. We just have this irresistible urge to fight guidelines. And if we think about it, what are we fighting against? These guidelines are in place to keep us guided. There's a beautiful quote from Benjamin Franklin that says, "The one who cannot obey cannot command." Even in this retreat, people who are encouraged not to sit beside someone you know, to be in Mona. If you cannot obey, you cannot command. How to practice this? This yama, it's called aparigraha, which means simplicity. Live a simple life, and we will find that we have less need for guidelines, less bank accounts, less phones, less email accounts, less clothes, less shoes, less friends, less social engagements. Simplify. That's aparigraha. Next arrow is niyama. Niyama means habits. And the beauty of the word habits, if you remove S, what still remains? Habit. You remove H, what remains? A bit. You remove A, what remains? Bit. You remove B, what remains? It. You remove I, what remains? T. That's what habits are. These habits are an expression of vasanas. And these habits make us, or these habits can break us. Good habits, bad habits. There's a band called Bush. You remember Bush? They have a song called "It's the Little Things That Kill." They're talking about habits. A bad habit can cause one's destruction, like the habit to play dice, the habit to hunt, like Raja Parikshit. These cause one to be broken. For CHYKs, we have this habit to be unprepared. Unprepared for exams, unprepared for the ashram, unprepared to invest money, unprepared with our health. What else is going to happen but fear if we are unprepared? It's shared that a habit can be formed in 21 days, a light habit. So any habit we want to form in our life, if we practice it for 21 days, that light habit will slowly become a heavy habit. So just try it, whatever we want to do. What is the habit we should form? Whatever one takes to eat, eat all of it. Don't waste food. Thomas Edison has said waste is worse than loss. How will this help me with habits, with niyama? I'll get into the habit of finishing everything I do in life then. I leave food, it gets me into the habit of keep on, oh, I don't have to do that, I don't have to meet that person. If I get into the habit of finishing food, there will be great benefit from that. 2 more. Weapons are done now. We get to the armor. Ravana has an immense chariot, Lord Rama has no chariot. Ravana has weapons, Lord Rama has only a bow and arrow. Ravana has armor, Lord Rama doesn't even have shoes. But he has a special armor. We will conclude with that. The 23rd virtue is called puja, but it's Vipra puja. Puja of those who are learned. In English, what that means for us, what do we need? What virtue? Learning. That is a virtue we need, is learning. Whenever we think of the learned people, we tend to think of those who are scholarly. That person's a learned person because he or she can quote a lot. But a Vipra is not someone who's learned, it is someone who is ready to learn. That is what makes a Vipra. Ravana's brother Kumbhakarna, Kumbha means pot, Karna means ear. It's not that he had pot-like ears, because then we can call Bhagavan Ganesha Kumbhakarna. The thing with Kumbhakarna is that those pots were turned inside, so nothing would go into his ears. That's why he's Kumbhakarna. All he wanted to do was eat and sleep. See how he's not a Vipra? Because he's not ready to learn. The greatness about yesterday's activity is that you all acted like Vipras. Everyone was ready to learn. And when we get to other circumstances, like taking a position up at work, pursuing a relationship in a loyal way, you and I fear responsibility because that means we will have to learn. Spider-Man has taught that. With great power comes great responsibility. We fear responsibility because we're not ready to learn. That's why we have to worship those people who are ready to learn, so it'll slowly radiate to me, and I will be such a person. This is the whole movement behind Vedanta Unplugged, is to learn from movies, music, books, eating, sports, activities, to become Lord Dattatreya, who learns from his 24 gurus. We should be the same. That every experience in life, I am ready to learn. Even from the negative, I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to learn not to be like this. This is what it means to Vipra Puja. We often ask where the learned people are. The learned people are all around us. And I have a beautiful story on a native tradition, which I'm going to delay till the summer to elaborate on this. Now you definitely have to sign up. But how to practice this? Every day, you have to tell another person what you learned that day. And I don't mean in an academic way that I learned what osmosis is. tell someone what you learned philosophically. I learned that anger really burns people. When I tell it to you, katanam, it will become crystallized in me then. That is, we will become Vipra Puja. We'll have this virtue. And now the 24th and the last virtue, the closest to Bhagavan Rama's heart, will prevent anything from Ravana to hit him, is also puja, but not Vipra Puja, but Guru Puja. That is, worship of the Guru. What it means for you and I is reverence. Reverence is that armor which no one can touch us then. So much to say about this. So we'll skip the spiritual level and go to the CHYK level. When you and I are serious about happiness, we will radiate the seriousness to the universe. The Guru will identify our seriousness, and he or she will guide us. Now, what we tend to do is we make the Guru unrelatable. He's too old, he's too young. He's a boy, she's a girl, etc., etc. We make the Guru unrelatable, which means we don't have reverence for the Guru. People often ask, can you teach us practical Vedanta? Want to know what practical Vedanta is? Practice Vedanta. That's practical Vedanta. But we don't have reverence for Vedanta, so we're finding reasons not to practice Vedanta. We don't have reverence for the Guru, so we're finding reasons why only he or she can do it, but I can't. Or only he or she should do it, but I'm not like that. And so we get pierced by fear. When Prince Arjuna says, Shishyaha te aham, Lord Krishna smiles. And it's the most important smile in any scripture. Some people interpret it as being a sarcastic smile. It's Lord Krishna showing to Prince Arjuna that you are saved now. There's nothing for you to fear because you're under my protection now. I am your armor. The next time fear comes, the next time a problem comes, we often go to our Guru and tell our Guru, I have so much fear, or I have this problem. Go to fear, go to the problem, and tell them how big your Guru is. And that fear, that problem will dissolve. How to practice this? www. And don't wait for me to fill in a website. It is, what would the wise do? That is how to practice reverence for the Guru. What would the wise do? www. After this is all elaborated, Bhagavan Rama tells Vibhishana, the person who has this dharmarata, the person who lives these virtues, they don't have to conquer enemies because there are no enemies. That person who has enemies inside has enemies outside, but that person who has no enemies inside has no enemies outside. Soft problem of the software, so soft solution. Yudhishthira asks his father, Yama, his father asks Yudhishthira, who is a man? Yudhishthira's response is, the one whose actions are right. That person is a man, and anyone who doesn't act rightly is not a man, a human in this context. What Pujya Swami Tejamananda has said, only when one lives a life of virtues are they intelligent, are they a hero. When Vibhishana hears all of this, he goes to joy. He holds on to Bhagavan Rama's feet and keeps on saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. He went to joy. Where there is joy, there is no fear. And that's how we began on Friday evening. This chariot of dharma is the only way to lasting victory. Oppression is not. Suppression is not either. It is only through dharma. That is the only way to face everything and rise. your ram. Reflection assignment for the months, for everyone. Out of these 24 virtues, pick one. Spring begins on March 21st. Summer begins on June 21st. For the next 3 months, pick one virtue and build your chariot. You have an option, 1 out of 24. It's a huge buffet. Pick one, and this whole season, I will work on Shama. That's it. Like a muscle, if I don't use it, it goes into atrophy. If I don't practice these virtues, they will be forgotten. This is the first time that I have shared thoughts on Vibhishana Gita. If I've made any mistakes, they're totally mine, especially the mismanagement of time today. If there are any master strokes, it is all through the teachings of Puja Swami Tejamayana, who extracted this from Bhagwan Tulsidas Ji and Bhagwan Rama. I offer my gratitude to all of the families today who have patiently listened to these thoughts despite not knowing the context. To all of our CHYKs who spent the last 48 hours studying a scripture that is 1,500 years old or so. 1,500 years. I don't think any of our textbooks are that old in our academic institutions. To the organizers of this CHYK camp, who have been planning this literally for a year, these discussions have been going on. To Chinmay Mission Ann Arbor, the volunteers who are videotaping, moving chairs, cooking, cleaning, to Chinmay Mission Ann Arbor for offering this facility for us to study. To the Acharyas of Chinmay Mission Ann Arbor, the steering wheel, that is Uncle and Auntie. And naturally to Puja Swami Tejamayana, who is dedicated himself to us, and this summer he will again. And to Puja Swami Chinmayananda, who when told that if he teaches in public in English to women, that his head will explode, he received written death threats, verbal death threats. He did it more wholeheartedly then. And if he didn't, none of this would be here, would it? Because he's on his dharma ratha and he has no fear. Application.